Welcome to the aid station. I'm Chris Robb, and today we head off to the green pastures of Galway in Ireland to meet Joanne Murphy, the founder and owner of Try Talking Sport. Great to see you, Joanne. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, Chris. Lovely to be on the show today with you. It's a bit of a blustery day in Galway. There's no sunshine, but it's a good day in Galway.
Wonderful. It's always a good day in Galway. I think whether it's raining or pouring, the Irish have always got a smile on their face and they love life. And you're clearly a woman who loves life. I mean, I think we need 15 hours, not 15 minutes to tell your whole story. You wear so many different hats, but why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about your amazing story, please?
Well, thanks very much for having me on the show, and a great privilege to be on the show with you this afternoon. I suppose I started my sporting career as a team player and an athlete in school, in college, played sport all the way through, always loved sport, and worked in fundraising for about 11 years. So worked for a charity called Enable Ireland here in Galway for 9 years, and then I moved across to the Irish Cancer Society and worked with them for about 3 years. Which I absolutely loved. I really enjoyed fundraising, but my real passion was sport. So I was playing rugby, tag rugby, soccer, badminton, hockey, hurling, or camogie in Ireland as we call it. So I just love sport. I'm really passionate about it. And in 2009, I took up triathlon. I couldn't swim. My friend did the swim portion of a triathlon that we held as part of the Volvo Ocean Race, which came to Ireland back a few years ago, and I did a triathlon back then, and I did the bike and the run, and I crossed the finish line. I said, I've never felt like this before. It was exhilarating, and I was hooked. I couldn't swim a length of a pool. The water was so rough in Galway Bay, but that for me was it, and that was the start of a journey, and the pivot really was joining Galway Triathlon Club in 2010, learning how to swim properly, to train properly, to race properly. And I've gone on to race at all distances of triathlon. And in 2007, I set up the Galway Babes, a 4-person female racing team. And 2017 actually. I'm trying to think what year it is, 2020, so 2017. So we have the Irish record for the race around Ireland for 4 women. It took us about 81 hours to do it. 4 women from the west of Ireland, first ever female team. And then we went on to win and set the course record for the Donegal Ultra 550 kilometre race. So I absolutely love talking and I love sport. So you put those together and you end up with Try Talking Sport. And that's where it kind of all came together. And I live and breathe sport every day. And I love people and I love talking. So that's kind of where it's all lended itself to. I was working full-time in fundraising until 2015, started presenting with Ironman in 2011 when they came to Galway for the 70.3 race, and I've never looked back. That's where my presenting career really started. And in 2016 then I left my full-time fundraising job to go full-time into presenting and sport management and marketing. And I could talk for hours about my career, but I absolutely love it and I really miss people.
Wow, that's such a wonderful story, and so obvious. Your passion for it is just amazing, and that came through. We met online a couple of weeks ago when you joined one of the Strength in Numbers call, and you know your passion just came pouring through on that day as well. It's so wonderful. So how, I mean, you've been a busy lady, even despite COVID. You've got a podcast, you've been interviewing people, you've been hosting webinars. So it seems like, you know, COVID's been an opportunity that you've grasped. But what have you been up to during the last few months? Because there's obviously been a fairly strict lockdown in Ireland. And as you said, you miss people, but you're out and about now. You've been on your bike. The sun's been shining. But prior to that happening, how was life?
Yeah, it was very strange. I mean, the world stopped. It stopped for everybody. I certainly went into a bubble with my mum and sister. So my mum and sister live about 2 kilometers from me here in Galway. My sister would be considered a vulnerable adult. So she has epilepsy and a mild form of cerebral palsy. And then my mum is not 70 yet, but Irish people over 70 were asked to cocoon. So we had our own little bubble between our 2 households. We were only allowed to travel within 2 kilometers. So, you know, the first priority is really to protect yourself and your family, and then you worry about your business. And that's what we did. So it was strict, but it wasn't as strict as other places. We could still travel for up to 2 kilometers. You know, we were still able to get out and about. You know, the primary businesses were open for like shopping and things like that, as in for food shopping, and the essentials were open. You know, but from a business perspective, everything shut down. So you sign a contract with one organization on a Monday, COVID comes in and the country goes into shutdown, and that contract is revoked on a Friday. That's tough. That's very hard.
Yeah.
You're supporting race directors as part of my work with Run Ireland. We were supporting race directors that had to make a decision on whether they would postpone their race, continue to promote their race, or what they would do, how they would pivot their own companies as well that were, you know, running various events. Would they go virtual? What would they do? And I'm not talking about the likes of Ironman now, or that. I'm talking about small local races that are doing it to support their clubs or to support their communities. So it was really, really busy. It was extremely busy. For the first 8 weeks, I didn't move outside the house other than to stay within my 2 kilometers. I didn't even go on my bike. I became obsessed with Zwift. The Zwift platform, I absolutely loved it. My turbo was set up in the kitchen as something I hadn't done for a long, long time. You know, training at home, and we set up a selfie isolation group where we supported people who wanted to be fit and active during lockdown, but just needed a small goal. They just needed a small challenge every day to just keep them fit and active. For 30 minutes a day was all we kind of set up, and we had about 300 people join the group, and we had great fun every day, and we bonded as a group. We've met some of the people that have been in Galway that I never knew before, but who signed up to the challenge. And it was good, but it was also bad, because you know, you try and be all things to all people, to support everybody, to support yourself, support your family, to remain committed and connected to the people who are following you, to that community that are putting their trust in you when you're on the finish line of a race. You're part of their life for a split second, but after that race, you become part of their memory. And that's an important position to be in. So you kind of, I definitely went gung-ho with it. I went, podcast was out every week instead of 2 weeks. I was broadcasting 2 nights a week for Try Talking Sport, interviewing athletes, which I absolutely love. But then I'm also president of a business club here in Galway, and we moved everything in person to online. So we were hosting webinars every second week. We were hosting a live chat every week. We're supporting our members. A lot of them were small businesses, or they were people who were employees of business or in senior management positions, and everybody was kind of struggling. So you're trying to support everybody within your circle and outside of your circle as well. So, you know, I was telling you that I kind of shut my laptop about 3 weeks ago because we had a bank holiday here, and it was the best thing I did. Yes, I want to stay connected to people, but I wasn't training. I was going to my laptop at 9:30 in the morning and just go, trying to stay on top of things, trying to pivot, trying to be relevant, to have a purpose, because we all need a purpose.
Yeah.
Even if our business is going down the toilet, you want to feel like you've got a reason to get up in the morning. And I think that's hugely important. And you want to be positive. But I did take a bit of a break, turned off the laptop, did about an hour a day. We celebrated the first anniversary of the podcast in the midst of it all. And it was just like, I actually don't want to do anything anymore. And I just shut it down, and I went out on my bike, and our restrictions were lifted in that bank holiday weekend, I think it was. And I started going down to Salt Hill to have a coffee, which I hadn't done for 8 weeks. I'm a real social person. Yeah. I'm a real people person. I need people. And
so that's, I guess, been one of your biggest challenges, is that just lack of interaction with people, and nothing replaces it, does it? I mean, you can have these kind of conversations, you can be on the phone, but just that physically being with people, being able to give someone a hug, which I guess you can't really do still. No. That's still social distancing. That's got a while to come, but just being in the presence of others is wonderful, isn't it?
And it's that social interaction, and it's actually just knowing that you're seeing the person. I think because no more than yourself, Chris, you're online all the time with your aid station and your calls and everything. And it is actually just like talking to the wall. Sometimes you feel like you're just talking to yourself or talking to the wall, even though you're chatting to so many amazing people. But that spark that you have when you're in person with someone is very, very different. Yeah. To that spark you have when you're online, and the presence of somebody. And so I missed that. And what I found actually was, when I went to Salt Hill early in the morning and I started getting into the water for a little swim, which I hadn't done, and going for coffee after, I would come home at 10 o'clock and I would get more work or activities done between 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock than I was in a whole day, because my brain was engaged, my body was engaged, I was happy, I was just loving life. So now this is the new routine, you know, get up and go for a swim or train in the morning, have coffee, come home, and then face into a day of whatever work is for that day. And even when there's no announcing work, there's still lots of things to do in the background for your
Wonderful.
business or for the activity. So I love it now, and I'm fired up and ready to go again after taking a break.
That's so great. And again, it's such a reflection. So many things you've spoken about are just so reflective of our industry, the small businesses that contribute so much to the communities, that engagement, that reason to train for all those kind of things that are so special in the mass participation industry. And I always like to talk about leadership, and you've clearly shown leadership in a number of ways: building the team to cycle around Ireland, setting up your podcast, being involved with setting up events, supporting people. What are some of the people or some of the principles you take your cues from a leadership perspective, Joanne?
I suppose, I mean, it's important that if you're going to be a voice in an industry, you have to be authentic. I think that's really important. So, some people will say to me, God, I can't believe you posted that real sweaty photograph of yourself on your Facebook page after a hard turbo session or a walk bike. And I'm like, but that's my life. That's what I'm doing. So why would I airbrush or change a photograph or not give people a little bit of an insight into life? Why would you not tell the truth of what's going on? You make mistakes, you learn from them. Everybody has failures. If you don't go back and learn from those failures, are you ever really learning and growing? So I think being authentic is really important. And people really love a story, and they like seeing an insight into other people's lives, and nobody is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no point in putting up this persona. You can have a wonderful persona, you can be the voice on the microphone, you can create this whole wonderful life on social media, but then you go home and there's nothing to back it up. So I think being authentic and genuine is much more important than having the airbrushed photographs or the tens of millions of followers on Instagram. So you either like me or you don't. I make mistakes, I'll say things that are wrong, but I'm willing to learn and listen and be educated. And that's another thing as well that I found during lockdown. I learned so much over the course of the last few weeks that I would never have had the time to learn, because I'm always living out of a suitcase. I'm always chasing the next deadline and trying to get work done. Whereas now I'm like, okay, I can actually sit into a webinar and I can enjoy it and I can listen to it, or that's really important. And also I think being grateful.
Yeah.
Hugely important. I think there's a huge amount of people out there that have so much positive things in their lives, and they just look at the negative and they're not grateful for what they have or what they've achieved. And I'm very ambitious. Some would say that I have strong, that picture of the girl, I'm not bossy, I just have strong leadership skills, but I'm ambitious and I want to bring people with me, I think. And you've got to be grateful for what you have. And I think being in lockdown has shown an awful lot of us that we have an awful lot, and there are a lot of people who don't have what we have. And if we can be grateful for one little thing every day and be a positive influence once in our daily lives and do something positive, then we can go to bed knowing that we've made a difference, even if it's only in our small communities. And I think that's hugely important.
Wonderful. So it's really great principles there. I couldn't agree with you more. Authenticity and gratitude. It's such an important thing. Gratitude. So many people. I have a little routine where every time I get in the shower, I say thank you, because there's people in this world that don't even get a chance to shower. And it came to me once when I was in a place where the shower was this little dribble and it was cold, and I got frustrated for a moment. It was like, well, hang on, you've got a shower. There's so many people that don't even get a chance to have a shower. And from then on, it's kind of become this ritual where every time I get in a shower, I say thank you for the fact that I got a shower. And many things during the course of the day, just appreciation. It's incredible. I'd love to end with, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I think as well what COVID-19 has shown us is how important it is to be grateful, because there's so many people fighting that invisible battle that's out there that we see in the illness that people are getting, or the unfortunate deaths that people have had, and people have passed away. So many people have died from COVID. But we need to be grateful and thankful that what we have is what we have. And yes, we can strive for more. We should always be striving for more. But we need to take a step back and just say thank you. And that's a very simple thing that can make somebody's day by just saying thank you
Thank you.
and being
Yeah.
grateful. And I think it's very important. And we don't do enough of it. As a people, I'm not sure we do enough of it.
Yeah, no, great point. And as always, the time flies. We could talk for ages, but I'd love to end on something inspiring. I mean, you're an incredibly inspiring woman, but what would you like to share as an inspirational tip or story to the audience, please?
Well, I suppose I just mentioned there, that we need to be grateful and thankful. And I think that our frontline workers across the board and across the world have been a huge inspiration to people. They go to work fearless, well, scared probably every day, but they're fearless in what they're doing. But also as part of that, I think the athletes that have gone on and done a lot of fundraising and given back to their communities, and we've had a huge amount of that in Ireland and even in the United Kingdom. We've seen athletes who their races are cancelled. They're really disappointed that their races are cancelled, or their goals have been that maybe you've been training for an Ironman for like 2 years and it's suddenly gone. What do? You have no purpose now. Your whole life has been around a routine of getting up early, swimming, working, eating, training again at lunchtime, working, eating, training again in the evening. They lose that sense of purpose. But they've taken on something that's greater than themselves. And there's a lot of people that have done, triathlons in their back garden. They've taken on Ironmans in their back garden. They've run half marathons. There's a lot of people who've taken up running and taking up sport and activity now during COVID-19. And that's really inspirational, and they've raised lots of money for people as well. And I'm not just talking about the likes of Jan Frodeno and some of the big names that have done stuff, but I'm talking about the ordinary people who have just seen the greater good that they can do, and they've built around their community. They've given their community a focus, their families a focus, and they've raised lots of money in the process. And I think we can look up to people that are doing things like that, and they're ordinary people. And for me, that's a lot of inspiration, as is being on the finish line of a race where it doesn't matter whether you've done a 5K for the first time, you've got a PB, or you've done an Ironman. Everyone has their own goal to achieve and their own reason for achieving it. And inspiration comes in many forms. And the one thing I would say about the whole situation, is every cloud has a silver lining, and I'm a firm believer in it. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't had a fractured pelvis back in 2011, and Ironman hadn't taken a chance on bringing me as a race announcer. For me, the cloud was the fact that I was injured. I really wanted to race in Galway. Home race didn't happen. Silver lining, I now have a career in a sport I absolutely love, and it pivoted from that one point. And the other thing I would say to somebody, and as a female presenter, there's not many of us that are doing the job that I do. We talk about, knocking on the door, but there isn't a door for a lot of us to go through, whether we're a woman in business or we're coming out of the blocks out of college or whatever it is. And if there isn't a door, just find an archway and go through it, because you have to just take the chance and go for it. And if you don't, you might regret it. Yes, you might fail, but if you fail, you'll learn from it and you'll move forward, and you will never regret the decision to move forward. It's a bit like a training session. You never regret the training session that you actually completed. And
Wow.
that's my inspiration for today.
I love that. If there isn't a doorway, find an archway and walk through it. What a beautiful saying. What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Joanne. Really inspiring. We could talk for another hour, both of us. I don't know who would get a word in edgeways more, but it's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. All the best, and I'm sure our paths are going to continue to cross, and hopefully I'll get to meet you in person one day in the not too distant future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks so much for all you're doing as well to keep us motivated and connected throughout the industry, because that's been very important as well. So thank you very much for all that you're doing for all of us in the business.
My pleasure. Thank you.